Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina, Collier, candidate, engagement author and speaker. I'm, of course, joined by the gorgeous Audra Knight, employer branding genius nerd, or whatever I'm calling her this week. Which could be anything. I'm sure you're a little bit excited about this week's guest. We have Chad Sowash, one half of Chad and Cheese.
And the better half. The better half of Chad and Cheese.
Oh, too exciting. Please put a headset on if you're at work. I get the feeling this won't be safe for work.
13.
Welcome to the Social Recruiting Show.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Now, Chad, I actually first got to know you, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago when you did a webinar for Career Arc back in that day, because I worked for Career Arc. And I remember the webinar was super good and that you were someone to kind of really follow in the space. So I'm excited that we're finally chatting. Can you let people know, what you're doing at Catch-22 and your podcast?
Yeah. So, I'm kind of dating myself. I've been in the industry since before Monster was Monster. I was with Monster when it launched in January of 99. Back on that day, I think I was at Direct Employers as a VP at Direct Employers for 10 years and working directly with major Fortune 500 companies and talent acquisition, generally VPs of global talent acquisition systems, working with partners. So, this has been kind of my thing for the last 20 years. But right now, Chad and Cheese, the podcast, if you're not listening, I don't know what the hell your problem is. ChadCheese.com. Go to wherever you can subscribe for podcasts. It is not a safe for work. Yeah, not a safe for work. Not a safe for work type of podcast, but go to iTunes, wherever you get it. Just look for the Chad and Cheese podcast. It is recruitment industry specific. Just listen. On the Catch-22 side of the house, right now, because of the podcast and the notoriety and whatnot, I'm getting a ton of startups and companies that have been around for a while who are trying to pivot and really just kind of rejuvenate who they are, their brand and their product and whatnot, coming to me to see if I can help from a consulting standpoint to be able to do that. This year, I'm backing away from that a little bit to be able to focus on Chad and Cheese global domination. We're going to be in London at Recfest. We're going to be at TA Tech in Lisbon. We're going to be at Unleash in Paris. We're going to Banff here in a few weeks to this awesome, I'd never heard of it before. It's called the Cult Gathering, and it is huge brands, and it's all about branding and marketing. Never heard of it before because it didn't really have any employer brand appeal. Well, they're trying to bring that in. One of the founders found us, and they pulled us in and said, "You guys have to be a part of this." So we're going to be in Banff and the Canadian.
Added that to her bucket list.
Yeah, no, it is awesome.
See her face go, I'm so going to talk about.
It's like a Canadian South by Southwest because they have music at the end of it. So you go through this whole thing. So anyway, that's kind of,
Do you happen to know the URL? Debbie's asking for a link.
Yeah, forget speaking at it. I want to play at it.
Do what?
Forget speaking. I want to play at it.
Yeah, you're right. Just go.
We have Google. Employer branding and base over here.
Just go to Google and put in the Cult Gathering. It's cultgathering.com.
Cool.
It's really cool. So check it out. We're going to be there, and hopefully that'll be something that we do every year.
So the companies that you're advising, are they in the HR tech recruitment space?
Yeah, they're in the tech recruitment space. Whether they're startups, I work with talent acquisition, but in most cases, they always plead that they don't have any money. In a lot of what they want me to do from an advising standpoint, I don't want to say it's boring, but it's more process oriented. Mm-hmm. So I've been working with a lot of startups, and I've been working with brands that you've come to know, love, and probably hate over the years, and on the vendor side to try to help them spin who they are, what they do. This has just been a great economy for not just startups, but for companies who really understand that they need to break out of whatever the mold they've been in. And, I'm one of those guys that can generally help.
Now, do you still do like diversity and veteran consultant, or is it more this HR tech side now?
It's mainly on the HR tech side. And the reason being, I mean, I've built veteran hiring programs for major Fortune 500 companies. I mean, and we've blown up their veteran hiring, into the 20% range of some of the locations. Yeah. But here's the thing.
That's so good.
As all these companies talk about veteran hiring and diversity hiring, and it's so important. It's all bullshit. They don't put any money to it. They don't put any money to it. If you want something, if you want to do something, you've got to allocate resources and cash. If you don't do that, no budget. I have companies coming to me saying, "Well, what free resources can we use?" That I just turn around and walk the other way. You're not committed. You are interested. And when you get to the committed phase, come and have a conversation with me. Until then, fuck off. I don't have time for you.
That makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. So who is doing it well then? Who did throw money in it?
Some of my clients. So one of the companies that I did work with, and they really blew it out of the water. They listened and they cared. Was the Ford Motor Company. It was funny because you have veterans who work within those companies, but they aren't military veterans who have talent acquisition background. So you have like a piece of it and they're excited and they want to be a part of it. They just need direction, and they had an amazing resource group, employee resource group we could draw upon. Not to mention they really were committed. And there's some other companies that are out there that are very committed to it. But the big key is being efficient and ensuring that you're focusing on ROI, because it's any type of your business, like any type of your business. If you're doing this and it helps and you can see the positive impact when the economy is down, you don't chuck it away, because that's what happens in most cases. You see it in college recruiting. You see it in diversity recruiting, veteran recruiting. It's like, oh yeah, we can't really we can't show an ROI. So yeah, we'll bring it back later. Right. When you
branding too, sometimes I've seen companies that can happen with just employer branding initiatives too. Like you have some trouble or you're having layoffs and you say, and that's the person that goes before the recruiters because they're not putting in seats.
Well, so I have a huge issue with employer brand. My biggest issue is they're not tying to the business. They're not tying to the business. If they tied to the business and they actually showed how they're impacting sales, and I'm going to go back to an old with Virgin Media, they demonstrated that shitty candidate user experience negatively impacted their bottom line sales. Nobody cares about anything until somebody starts talking about revenue that's being lost or revenue that can prospectively be won. So they lost $6 million, which is probably a drop in the hat for them, but still lost $6 million. But the really net new that they could have if they retained and also pulled some of those candidates that did not subscribe to their service, they could have been net positive $13 million. And that's just a start, right? So when employer brand gets to the point and talent acquisition gets to the point where they understand what real business is, then I want to have that conversation. We tell all this fluffy bullshit about, it makes me feel good.
But I also think there's the other element though, is you need your management to also go.
Well, the same thing as you were saying.
Company sucks, so we don't need 6 employer branding people over here telling the world how amazing it is, because actually our whole employee experience is so bad. We need to sort that out. That happens too.
Yep.
There's
data. Data. How's it impacting all those individuals?
Talent acquisition are the heads. They're saying we want an employer brand person and we want to do these initiatives, but they have an ATS that's dusty and the source of hire is a drop down. You pick your source of hire. Like not, for a lot of companies, it's like, how can they even track, if they can't even track applications and hires, like what do you expect? They need the tools to do that. And Virgin had that agency that spent a ton of money.
But also, how can you, even if your employees are unhappy, like how can you actually quantify that productivity wise? They guess, they don't really know.
Yeah, if you're employees, and that's an entirely different discussion. So you're
well,
diverting.
because to me, employer branding is all related to happy employees.
I get it. There are specific areas that you have to have focus and priority because you can't work at all of it at the same time. If the first thing that you should do is definitely shore up your employees, right? Because retention is the biggest key.
Yeah.
It's the biggest key. Once you get that done, then you can start to move toward experience and to see how it could prospectively be negatively impacting your bottom line. Not just the candidates that you're bringing in or not bringing in, but your actual bottom line. When you start talking dollars and cents, that's what the CEO and president cares about. And if the CHRO or the global head of talent acquisition can actually take data that shows dollars and cents data, then guess who's now at the big person table?
Yeah,
because that's what matters.
I think it comes down to the tools, though. They just don't have the tools to track it right. A lot of companies. And also, they don't have a conversation with employee engagement person. I always see employer branding's over here in recruitment, employee engagement's over here in HR, and they're not talking, which seems crazy.
Or if there's a fear in the company, like you could have all of the survey and feedback and instant feedback and whatever technology you wanted, but if you have fear to answer honestly, it's never going to tell the truth. That's where I know everyone shoots down, but that's where I love the likes of Glassdoor and Comparably and all of these, where you can go, oh, well, they left and this is what they said. And if you've got 20 that say the same thing, there's a chance, there's a common thread there that should be addressed.
Well, real quick on the systems piece, even back 10 years ago, when I was working with major Fortune 500 companies very closely on being able to gather that data, most of their systems had the ability to gather the data, whether it's referral URLs or whatever it might be. They had the ability, but their admins, the actual admins working in the seat, had no clue how to do anything. So therefore, it was the applicant tracking system's fault, which was total bullshit. It wasn't the applicant tracking system. It was internal because the company didn't know how to use the tool. They had a screwdriver. They were using it as a hammer, and they were pissed at the screwdriver.
I see that a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
with old
we have to look internal first to see if we're actually, and again, as we're talking about bitching about a lot of this stuff, we're starting to see all these different systems that are really cool and they're bright and shiny. And we've heard over and over and over, well, do we need a chat bot? What the hell do you need it for?
Yeah, do you?
I mean, yeah. Do you? Do you not? Do you? I mean, and that's the big question. What do you need it for? What's it going to do to be able to help you? And this isn't just from the sales.
People aren't getting to your website in the first place. What's the point of paying for it?
And it's the same thing with social media. Like, do you really need a Facebook careers page just because it's like trendy and cool? Or what's the problem with solving? Maybe you don't, right?
Yeah, I'd say probably you more than likely don't need to be spending resources there. But I mean, depending on your actual company and your outreach and how much Facebook marketing you do. So yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on your initiatives, your social initiatives in that case, because in some cases, it does and it will work incredibly well
if you put a budget behind it, again, because it's pay to play.
Yeah. And also you've got to watch because, like, I'm thinking Marriott's got a really good one, for example. But if I go like the Marriott careers page and my boss sees that I've liked that, what are you up to, Katrina? Thankfully, my boss is lovely and wouldn't care. But
none of your fucking business. That's my answer. It's my social page.
Yeah, but that's what stops people liking a page like that. So, but anyway, you were more making it as a point of, do you really need it? I think we're forgetting to ask that question, aren't we?
Yeah, well, so the first thing that we need to do as a talent acquisition HR is we need to blow up our processes, period. We need to demolish those processes because they're 1990s, early 2000 processes. We have new technologies, brand spanking new, awesome technologies that we're trying to shove this old process into, and it's just ridiculous.
The bigger the company, the harder it is, though. If you're a small startup, these processes, if you're like a small startup, you can just blow it up. But if you're Marriott, it's harder. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. but it's.
I think it's only hard because it's red tape. You know, people are justifying their job, so they create, a hoop for you to jump through because then they look great or something.
Yeah. And look at all this busy work. Look at all this busy work I'm doing. I've got this stack of stuff to do over here, which really that stuff is nothing but a bunch of tasks and bullshit that could prospectively be taken care of through some of these new technologies. And that scares the shit out of not just, I mean, we talk about like sourcing and recruiting being taken over by the bots and all that stuff. And I mean, but I mean, there's a lot of process stuff that could be taken over very easily. I mean, scheduling, being able to, and we're seeing it on the high volume side. High volume is kicking ass on this. I was talking to an RPO, they have a case study where they're killing it. They'll turn on a programmatic campaign. So again, the job pops in, gets pushed through programmatic. Individuals come in if they, and again, this is high volume. So if they meet the criteria, then they automatically go into the interview scheduling queue. Within 7 minutes, all that is done. 7 minutes, all of it's done. They're scheduled on a calendar for an interview. So, you know, it's like if that can happen in high volume, it can definitely happen just about anywhere. There's going to have to be some more, focus on basic qualifications.
I still think it would be really tough in the really shortage of people area. Like high volume I get because those people are coming to the website and they're coming to apply, so they're there. Whereas the people that are in short supply, as in the people that have the skills that are in short supply, obviously, have to get there.
That's the active versus passive, right?
So I don't think they will jump through so many hoops. So I'm not saying there's not a place. I still think it's great to be able to say, hey, play this quiz and, it will work out from you playing it, whether you're right for us and stuff. Like there is some fun stuff out there.
I haven't seen quizzes that really work out too well, though. They look nice, but.
Say that again, Audra?
I haven't seen too many quizzes that really work too well.
Yeah, the gamification.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends, doesn't it?
If it's a part of the interview process and it doesn't take forever, I mean, but again, you've got to take a look at the market, the unemployment rate that we have now. I think in most cases, it's the same here across the pond. They're just not going to take the time. So if the data is out there, I think it's really upon the companies. In many cases, the hiring companies have the data in their applicant tracking system in their candidate database, which sucks. It's there because the search sucks, but the data's there. Yeah, the data's there. So now all those candidates that you've paid hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases to compile is now going into atrophy, and you're going out here and you're spending money and you're spending money. It's like these people, if you treated these people right and you actually re-engaged them, the people that you've already spent money for, and you had the right kind of matching software. There's really good matching software that's out there. That should be your primary focus, right? And being able to use some of these new technologies to tap in, working behind the scenes, like the brain per se, or really just kind of like the guts, is I think the way to go. Saving money on something that you've already paid for.
But what's frustrating is you spend all this money on an ATS. And the sourcing is crap, and you have to buy another tool to source it. Like that pisses me off. Why can't I just source in my ATS?
So they're old. They've not kept up with they've not really kept up with the progressive change of the recruiters who really want to go like in there. Most recruiters will just go out of the market and start again because they just don't think to use the ATS. But those that do, I think the tech hasn't kept up with their thinking.
No, it hasn't. But again, I don't think the tech is. I don't think that the tech, the actual applicant tracking system tech, has kept up because they haven't been focusing on actual talent acquisition as acquiring talent. They've been focusing on onboarding, doing background checks, and everything after. Right, that's where most of the applicant tracking systems they've done a fairly good job. I mean, they've partnered in most cases, but they haven't partnered on the other side. They might have at one time plugged in like an eQuest, that one of the dinosaurs of job distribution now. But you don't see a lot of them actually plugging into like a programmatic and then allowing allowing the actual applicant tracking system. I mean, it's fairly simple. And everybody's always bitching about, well, that's a much harder with the integrations. It's like the integrations are just really the people and the resources to get that shit done, especially when we're dealing with APIs. But you post a rec, it goes out from a programmatic standpoint. No recruiter has to pick where it goes. It goes out programmatically. It also goes internal, matches against the database, and starts in email campaigns, outreach campaigns, or bot campaigns to be able to pull them in to apply. And again, the tech's out there, but the applicant tracking system really wasn't meant to be.
What tech is out there?
The tech, I mean, so we talk about matching. So from a matching standpoint, one of our sponsors, Uncommon, Uncommon has matching technology. HiringSoft has matching technology. Intello has matching technology. Opening.io over there in Glasgow has.
Intello's not an ATS though, is it? I thought it was.
These are all matching. These are all matching technologies.
You have to set them over the ATS.
Yeah, there's no ATS that's really doing this. From my understanding, that's doing this the right way right now. So those are the kind of like the matching, but then you've got all the different programmatic plays that are out there too. But it's funny, we just did a demo with a company called Talk Push, and they are looking at the applicant tracking system in an entirely different way as they're building. Right now they have a CRM that is infused with messaging. So WhatsApp, texting, Facebook Messenger, all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. So, but it has email too, just in case. But
for the old youth,
for all those old people. So it's integrated to that extent, and Max, who's the CEO, is like, look, we want to be able to take over for the ATS because we're this new age thinking. And I think these new technologies that are starting to grow and really mature, you'll see some prospective alternatives to the ATS, or what we can call the new ATS. I mean, people want to kind of talk about, well, the ATS is never going away. Well, okay, whatever. The tasks that an ATS,
the people's information, whatever you want to call it, is not going anywhere. Because you still want to either be able to drill in and find them again, or to market to them and keep them interested in case you want to pick them up next year.
Right. So there are these technologies that are out there.
The pool of people?
Yeah. ABC. Okay, good.
A thing with people in it.
That does stuff. So, and also like Candidate ID, who's over there in Glasgow as well. They're doing some really cool stuff. Glasgow. Sorry. Glasgow.
Not Glasgow. It's a bit like me saying, so what?
Which I'm fine with. I mean, they've got a really cool system that engages the candidates in your applicant tracking system, but it also engages the individuals who are coming through. So this is real employee candidate engagement, but you could use something like that for employees too, right? It's being able to use the tool and adapt it in many different ways. And smart talent acquisition professionals will look at something and say, wow, I can use that for this and this. And I mean, they'll adapt it. And actually I was talking to Eric Kostelneck over at Text Recruit during an ISOMS event. Thank you, Audra. And it was funny. Yeah, I know. I had to do that. So he was actually talking about some of his clients that were there. We were at an ISOMS event and we were doing some analyst stuff, and some of their clients were there. And he was like, they're teaching us how to use our system every single day. We've got these really cool ways and they're like, well, wait a minute, we can branch out and we can do these things. So you'll see that with high level talent acquisition, people who understand recruiting, they understand sourcing, they understand the process, right? They know how to fit those things in.
Why doesn't the big ATS, why don't one of them just buy Clinch or buy Candidate ID? And then they will have, instead of building their own where they don't really know what they're doing and they're crap at it, why build their own versus just buy one? Is it just too expensive?
Yeah. I think right now they're waiting for market. to actually happen. Maybe a turn, who knows, where it's not going to be as expensive. Maybe some of them are actually trying to get ready for something like that with partnerships. A lot of the applicant tracking systems, they like to work through partnerships first to be able to see, much like, again, I'm going to go back to the iCIMS Text Recruit. They had a partnership. Text Recruit proved through numbers that they were successful. iCIMS says, I want that. So there's this proof that has to happen, right? This business case that iCIMS or that applicant tracking system can actually see. And they're like, okay, well, that's worth spending money on. So when you see those things happen, a Clinch, for instance, awesome company. Being able to get them embedded in an applicant tracking system to an extent. Yeah.
Hey,
that's where it comes.
I have a strange question, because I was looking for this while I've been doing my research for my book. With TalkRush, when someone applies, can they actually send the dreadful email autoresponder, but maybe by a lovely GIF in a text or WhatsApp, or because I know there's Convey IQ that does that, but again, it's a plugin. But I'm just curious, are they doing that? Because I love that. It's so human.
Yeah, you can do emojis and all that other stuff. Yeah, because I mean they're using WhatsApp, and they're just using the messenger the way that the messenger is supposed to be used. And
so you can set up an autoresponder, but to be quite bright and fun and really engaging.
Yep. So you can, and they have, it's funny. The only reason I can remember this is because it's like one of the only male chatbots is Stan. So Stan is set up.
That's funny.
Yeah, Stan is set up in a certain way, but you can obviously switch it over and change names, and you can focus on any type of customized messaging back. They have a standardized messaging protocol, which is really cool, but and nice because you can set it down and just use it. But yeah, the guys over at TalkPush, it's definitely an interesting play, not just in the chatbot land, which everybody wants to talk about because it's more than just chatbot. It's got the CRM infrastructure underneath it as well. But then also looking forward and saying, hey, could this platform possibly take the place of an ATS? I think if you're taking a look at small to medium-sized business right out of the gate, no question. In some cases, some enterprise, there's a possibility there too.
Interesting, slightly different point, but it's just something to think about with the old chatbots. I just bought a bit of kit that I'm using for some social media marketing stuff. And they were saying when they change their little messaging thing that pops up to a picture of a non-white male, their inbound sales dropped off for the entire week as soon as they switched back. I just thought, wow, that's so bad.
Wow.
Yeah. Just so I wonder if you can split test. What pops up and actually work out what gives you the biggest results. And I was just horrified to live in a country that would actually not use. Yeah, wow.
Imagine if it was Chad's face. You'd be really screwed.
Oh, that's rude. Don't insult my gift like that. Oh my God.
You'd be screwed because sales would be flowing in the door and you wouldn't be able to take care of all the orders.
Nice comeback.
Hire more customer service people. I mean, taking all those would be amazing.
Audra Knight. Oh my God, I need a new co-host. Who's up for the job? Debbie? Bless.
Oh.
I'm like speechless at the end of that. Anyway.
Audra, I don't know if this is the time or not, but did you want to start having the Gillette conversation? I think, I saw James Ellis over there, and I think he'll love this one.
Yeah, I'm very blown away with why you're so excited about it to start.
Okay, hang on. Does everybody know about the Gillette advert?
Yes.
I'll just assume that everyone in the side channel is aware of the Gillette advert. If not, I will DM you the link later.
Yeah, so definitely go to YouTube and look at Gillette.
Oh, there you go.
And toxic masculinity. That's it. Gillette toxic masculinity. And from my standpoint, I think Gillette is hitting a home run when it comes to brand. And people, you've got to remember, people buy with their hearts a lot of times, right? So you take a look at, and I mean, from my standpoint, something that was much more controversial was Nike and Colin Kaepernick. Their sales exploded. Online sales blew up 30% more, and their stock went up higher than it's ever been because of.
Explain that for we who are.
See, that one I liked because it was relevant to what they do. That one
I don't know what you're talking about.
So
I live across the other side of the pond, and
so Nike.
I assume this has something to do with that ridiculous football where you all wear lots of stuff.
Yes. So
yeah, you know.
So, Audra, tell us about it, Audra.
Well, no, actually, can you describe it because I didn't follow it too much. I know of.
Yeah. So Colin Kaepernick, he was sitting down during our national anthem to protest.
Okay.
Really kind of like, how the Black community, the African American community is being treated by police officers in the United States. So he sat down.
Okay.
Then he actually connected with an individual, a ranger from the United States military. He said, dude, that's not cool, right? You shouldn't do that. And so they had a conversation. And he said, well, I totally get what you're saying, and I appreciate that. If you remember the 68, I think it was the 68 Olympics when the track athletes actually, had the black gloves on, black socks, and they were protesting during the national anthem. This is a different way to do that, but instead of sitting, take a knee, because we take a knee for our fallen soldiers. I was in the military for 20 years. And that really, that meant something to me, being able to do that. So anyway, behind that, Nike actually had an entire advertising campaign with Colin Kaepernick because he was pretty much kicked out of the NFL. I don't want to say kicked out. Nobody would hire him, put it that way. And
because to be fair, he's paid to play football, not paid to protest on their dime. So I kind of get that.
Yeah, but as a human being, you also have a social responsibility. If you were in the limelight, you have a social responsibility. He felt like he had a social responsibility.
Yeah, I get
that. And apparently, the people watching this ad agreed, and Nike's sales exploded. First, they dropped because people were burning their Nike shoes.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. It's like
they actually burn. I can't imagine they burn. Don't they melt?
Yeah. So anyway,
from piles of shit you got to clean up.
From that standpoint, right? It's like you're selling shoes. Really, you're selling shoes, but they got behind something from a social standpoint. This is exactly what Gillette is doing. Gillette first came out with the Shaquem. I can't remember his last name, but he plays for the Seattle Seahawks. And he's an individual with disability. He's missing one of his hands, and he's playing NFL football. And everybody's like, "Well, wait a minute. He's an individual with a disability." It's like, no, he's not disabled. You are. He's playing in the NFL, right? So
if he can catch the ball,
it doesn't matter, right? So They had a whole story behind him. And again, they're building that brand. This is what we believe in.
What is
this is what we
razors or shaving. That's what I think they're just jumping the bandwagon of Me Too so they can make a ton of money. And maybe it's working, but I don't get what it has to do with their
now with the whole toxic masculinity.
Their whole thing for 20 years is the best a man can get. So they're playing on that.
Now they are.
I think a female watching that ad will always go, yeah, fair play. Men should be, stepping up and blah, blah, blah. But I think that the toxic masculinity men watching that advert wouldn't get it at all. And that's who should get it. And they're the ones buying the razors. So I do wonder what they're up to.
But they're not the only ones buying the razors. Gillette makes razors for females too. So
yeah, but that's aimed at men.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I believe that if my wife, I was actually talking to my wife about it, and she's like, she felt something as well. And she was talking, and we actually started discussing about, it's not about, it doesn't make masculinity bad. It's the toxic pieces. Yeah. Just get rid of that shit. The areas where, bullying and, fighting and all these aggressive behaviors, those are things that you can pull out. I'm a guy who I was trained in the military as an MMA fighter. So like a UFC fighter and also instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot weapons. I love all that stuff. That to me, I love it. And that's masculine. I watched this and I'm like, yeah, I was that dick who actually mansplained things before. I don't do that anymore because that's dumb, right? I think it's a time for us to be able to recognize where we're really fucking up and change who we are. And so you see that in the commercial. You see all of this, the bullying, the mansplaining, the all these things, right? The boys will be boys with a bunch of guys behind their grills. And then it switches.
Yeah.
And you start to see one of the dads come out from behind the grills. Two boys are fighting. He splits them up and says, hey, we don't treat each other like this. And that was a point where it's like, yeah. And so that in itself is a brand. And you start to associate yourself with that brand, much like Nike did with Colin Kaepernick. There's that I can associate. I believe in that. Right?
In sports, and that goes with Nike. This whole pitch versus shaving, I just am missing that.
It's not about shaving. Their whole slogan has been the best a man can get. Like, so a man can be the best. They're just a play on their words that they've been using for 20 years. They're really known for that slogan. I did love, so off air, sorry guys, I'm going to reiterate, for you two, not for them. My friend Katrina pointed out how hypocritical it is because they've been so about, oh, a woman with shaved legs, she's a goddess. And she's so, she just needs to swell and twirl, which is really hilarious because the Greek goddess is like kicked ass. But it's like, she has a point. And why are we paying for a plastic product, not even a steel product, that costs more money because it's pink?
Yeah, why
it's got a ball. Like, to be fair, for years I used a men's one until I finally gave in and got a girly one. But, because
that would impress me. They actually took that millions of dollars for those ads and donated it to women's charity or whatever, like,
yeah,
more that than putting this.
But what she was pointing out is for years you've been playing and selling your razors on the inequality of men and women, and now you're suddenly switching it around. Like, make your mind up.
Well, and here's the thing. I believe that first and foremost, the pink tax should not exist. You guys know what that is, right?
Yeah. I don't think that's on razors. I think that's on tampons.
It costs pretty much the same to make a man's razor than it does a female's razor, but the female's razor is more. So the pink tax,
not because of the tax.
Yeah, the pink tax needs to go away.
I don't think number one on razors. It's on.
Well, I think it's on
sanitary products and things like that.
Number two, here's where the rubber meets the road. If Gillette is actually being equal and they're focusing on equality within the ranks of their organization, not just in hiring, but also in leadership. Do they have equity within, people of color, gender equality and pay equality throughout that, right? That is where that's the most important piece from me and from an employer brand standpoint. So I'm trying to pivot here now as I take a look at that ad and
put your money.
And I think, oh wow, I would want to work for an organization like that. That's awesome, right? But the question is, are they actually walking the walk and focusing on equality and equity? That's the big key, right?
Or did they just spend millions of dollars on a nice ad that is touching and beautiful, but prove that it really.
We need to find something that works at Gillette and shows the breakdown of staff and board and everything.
Palantir and what's the other company? Oh, you talked about that.
Oracle.
Yes. Oracle. It was on Julie's podcast, which we could do a shout out for. That was impressive.
Yeah. So definitely chadcheese.com. Go subscribe. And then my wife.
This is why we have fewer subscribers, Audra. We need to go subscribe, people. Share it with your mates.
And then my wife, who is she's actually works for Disability Solutions. They build disability hiring programs for major Fortune 500 companies. Has partnered up with Torrin Ellis, who is
awesome,
amazing. Yeah, amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the podcast is called Crazy and the King. So you can go to iTunes, Google, what have you. It's on Podbean, Google it, whatever. But Crazy and the King, they talk about it, and then Joel and I talked about it. They just did a better job than we did. Palantir.
Messy stuff.
Yeah. So you heard it.
Yeah,
I've been
I
talking
didn't.
enough.
So feel free to share with me
I guess they were asked,
and them.
and I wonder. Well, I guess they were asked to share their diversity statistics, and they said
Right.
that they couldn't because it would affect their hiring because it was a trade secret, or it was all BS. And in the end, it came out. How did it actually come out in the end? They had to share it.
They had to share it. Actually, the reveal, which is obviously a website that was digging deep into this because the company, if you know Peter Thiel, who I think is a total douchebag, he's a billionaire, but he's a douchebag. He's a co-founder of this company that gets hundreds of millions of dollars, probably billions in U.S. government contracts. So the U.S. government comes back and says, okay, you have to abide by these rules. We want to see your hiring numbers. Are you hiring in an equitable way? People of color, veterans, gender, all that stuff, and also pay. And they're like, oh no, we can't show you that, because if we show you that, then all of our competitors are going to know that we are full of women and people of color and so on and so forth.
Not like all the women are going to want a pay rise.
Crock of bullshit is what it was. It was a crock of bullshit. They weren't. As a matter of fact, there were hundreds. And this is just in Silicon Valley. There were hundreds of companies that they put up against, or Palantir was a part of this analysis. And Palantir, I think it was like 175 companies or something like that. Palantir was in the bottom four.
Ooh.
Bottom four, yeah. So
where Gillette was, I want to know. I'm interested.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yeah. Maybe I'll reach out to the reveal and say, hey, look, love this ad, love what they're talking about, but are they bullshitting us?
Because that would be the real story. If it's true, great. But that
is the real story. If it is true, then great. There's no question. Are they hiring individuals with disabilities as they're doing huge ads with the dude who has a disability, worked through it, awesome story, but are they walking the walk instead of just talking the talk?
Yes.
So how much do you think candidates pay attention to that stuff?
The ad? Really, the numbers.
Well, we've all sat here because we're in the industry, right? So we think about it that way and have gone, actually, you know what? The ad's great, but would we work there if we found it was hypocritical? No, we wouldn't. But the average candidate.
Yeah, I think if there was news that it was hypocritical, that they would definitely pay attention. It depends on how long they've been in the workforce and if they've seen these issues in the workforce before or not. So I hate to give you an answer and say, oh, everybody thinks about this.
No, I don't know that they would. Yeah. But I think actually from a company point of view, if you're going to go pull a stunt like this, because I still think it's a bit of a stunt. I agree with you, Audra, even though I'm kind of trying to play devil's advocate. You actually probably do need to now think it through the whole way through the process. How's that going to impact our employees? Are they going to think it's hypocritical? And how's it going to impact our hiring? But I don't imagine any company does. I imagine over here, a bit like your, employer branding, employee experience.
That's marketing. See, that's the thing is that, and Audra's right from the standpoint of marketing, advertising to boost and drive sales versus reality of the actual corporate culture, right? Are those two together, or are they entirely separate? That's the big question. I would say they're probably maybe scrambling to fix that if they even know to fix it.
I think the more transparent the world becomes.
If not, they just need to hire Julie, right?
Exactly. Just please, hire Julie. That'd be awesome.
Sounds like what she does must be incredibly satisfying. What a great job.
Yeah. And just to, again, throw that out a little bit from a numbers standpoint, it is all about numbers, right? So she works with companies like Pepsi and Synchrony Financial to be able to drive actual hiring for individuals with disabilities. And they have, I think it's like approaching 1,500 or so hires within those companies, those few companies alone.
But does she start hires or does she tie it back, like you were saying, to sales? Can she do that?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is that as they start to build those numbers, because she is a data geek, I love it. She's actually going to marketing and she's working with marketing and saying, hey, look, the individuals with disability population is huge, which means guess what? Buying power. Buying power.
No, it's not the pink pound. There's a word for it over here. There's something pound. That I always thought it was Pink Power, but it's not, something else. They're family, because also it's the families of and the friends of, and but also there's a retention point of view, because they're so excited to have work. They stay. There's a loyalty side.
Yes, she has retention numbers, and retention numbers are far higher than just your average employee
and
who comes to work for.
They have fewer sick days as well. So we've had Jane Hatton on before, haven't we, from Even Break? Fewer sick days because they're used to having to push through stuff. I mean, they're just very resilient. I'm grossly generalizing, of course, but it's
that was a good show.
That was
She's
great. I've heard her speak a couple of times. She's so awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd be more than happy to come on the show and talk about this. She's got much more data than I can share.
Yeah, very cool. So what else do we touch base on? I wouldn't mind.
How have we gone right off this technology topic though?
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about like ATS is stuck on top of CRM, stuck on top of something else, all glued together with sellotape.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. What's the biggest issue you guys believe with all this tech that's really exploding? And I mean, we're seeing more tech in this industry than we have ever. I think
the candidate experience still sucks. So all I see recruiters doing, that's my whole book is basically about, stop hiding behind the tech and treating people worse. And that's it. They've now got more tech to hide behind. We're the talent acquisition team. Thanks, Audra, for your application. I'm now going to file it in the bin. People come in first, 6 hours of interviews. No, can't we ask going back to them? It was like, but we've got a feedback tool, but nobody's using it. It's like, yeah, sorry, don't mind me. Just having a mild rant.
No, and I mean, candidate experience has sucked forever.
Yeah.
I mean, because applicant tracking systems were not built for candidate experience. They were built to track candidates. That's what they were built for. So, I mean, what kind of platforms have you seen that are out there that actually help engage and keep those individuals fresh? I mean,
well, some of the ones that'll actually kick people out of the process. So you get them to deselect first. And then have you seen Hone It? Hone It?
Yes.
Oh my God, how cool is that, right? Save time. Then you have time to feed back to people politely that are actually, like, what your job as a recruiter, once they're an actual candidate, is to keep them engaged the whole way through and to reject them nicely or hire them. That's your job. So I love like a tool like that that's actually helping you to save time.
And they're about implementation though at that point. I mean, it's all about implementation, because you can try to stick something into it. If you haven't changed your process, then it really just kind of screws everything up.
It's all up here. It's recruiters up here. There needs to be a mindset change. And it's amazing when you've got, 4%, is it, unemployment, that there hasn't been more of a mindset change. Everyone should be sitting up going, oh my God, how the hell do I keep Chad in this process? What do I have to do? I'll bend over backwards, whatever. What do I have to do?
Yeah. So, I mean,
bad candidate.
Those like, this is an interviewing platform. So Hone It, interviewing platform, really cool platform. I mean, do recruiters just really love interviewing people? I mean, because to be quite frank, I would love for something to interview people for me so that I could go and just, have the hiring manager do their thing and away we go. I mean, that would save how much time?
If it works.
Judging by people don't like automatic video interviewing, I don't imagine they'd even like automatic call interview. I think at that point it is nice to talk to someone. And a call takes 20 minutes to half an hour. It's not a huge amount to do that initial screen. Really?
Like Debbie, how can you sell a candidate you don't know?
Yeah. And actually the automatic robot wouldn't have the right questions to ask. We're not there yet.
Yeah,
we might end up there, but we're not there yet.
So like on the front end, to be able to do the light screening around basic qualifications, to be able to get them going the right direction, instead of just taking everybody in and then having to sift through a bunch of garbage.
But there are tools to do that, aren't there, already? So, but then I love it. Then you get to the phone screen and then it's like, okay, I just thought that tool was amazing. That's one of the good ones I've seen.
One thing that's really scaring me is that I feel like so many HR teams use this one big platform that works well for them and they spend $1 million and they're happy with it and they don't like all these other tools. And so they want recruiting to use that platform too. And I'm seeing that more and more and it seems like a mess. I wonder if it's ever going to get fixed or if that company's going to take over the world.
Workday. So yeah. I mean,
was that you not saying who it was, Audra?
But I mean, companies, they're all going there just because HR says they have to, and they want one tool. Like instead of, and I get you don't want layers, I get that. But what are you doing to your recruiting teams?
Yeah, in some cases, I mean, this has been happening for well over a decade. I mean, you talk about like the Oracles of the world or what have you going in and saying, hey, look, they're talking to the CIO. They're not talking to HR. You know, it's like, oh, hey, you can have this ATS thing that we have. Not going to cost you a penny. Well, I mean, you know, it will, but we're not going to tell you about it. So, I mean, it's the decision being made. Where is the decision being made first? Yeah. If it's happening at the technology information officer side of the house, it's really hard to win there, and you're going to have to start to bolt on different products and platforms because what they gave you was a piece of shit in the first place.
So, have you seen
what you said about it impacting a recruiter? One of my clients has tennis elbow, so every single click matters, right? And they put in a new system, not completely ignoring her as the recruiter in the company. They just said, we're having this new symptom. She was in tears. She was in so much pain because there were so many more clicks involved. So such a simple thing, but nobody consulted the actual people using the system to do the actual hiring. Like you just said, Chet. CIO.
User experience. Yeah, user experience.
Crazy.
And you would think that the CIO would care about user experience to an extent because there's adoption there, and adoption means usage. So instead of working outside the system, I mean, because that's what happens. You want to be able to gain total adoption inside the system that you've put in place. But if it's a piece of shit system, people work outside of the system. They buy other things. Yeah. People do today buy other things, and they just don't use that system. Yeah. Right. The system of record per se, they don't use it, which means they're at risk.
You're not saving money in the end, like you thought you were. If they're buying other tools, that's true. Now, have you seen exactly today can solve that problem on top of that big thing we talked about that works? Because it seems like everyone's trying. I've seen, I know a lot of companies are trying, and I think they'll probably get there, but I haven't seen one you could plop on top and it makes it a good user experience for recruiters. Have you?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of what you need to do, especially you just can't get out of that system is the hard part. You have to do as much as you can up front. So whether it's like for sourcers and recruiters, being able to use like a system like the Incommons or the Hiring Solved or what have you to do a lot of that upfront sourcing that can dip into the database, pull the candidates out of the database, your ATS, and then also get candidates in other ways where they're active or what have you. How much work? And again, you're doing everything that you can to be effective outside of this system that you're supposed to be using. That's the hard part, right? But that's what we've been doing for close to 20 years now. Yeah.
Do you think it'll get worse or better?
Yeah.
I think as we see companies acquire more companies to try to build these mega systems, it gets worse because they don't do anything well.
Yeah.
Right. They do a shitty job all the way around with all different systems. Right. Yeah. So I think, watching some of these companies who are doing some basic strategic acquisition, but also doing partnership and allowing those companies who do what they do, whether they're matching companies or they're chatbot companies or whatever they do, to do it right. And then them not having to split resources to be able to try to do it themselves. That's the best strategic option today. Will you start to see prospective acquisitions happening because of that? Yeah. The big key though, and again, I don't want to keep beating this drum, but you take a look at the iCIMS Text Recruit acquisition, right? Text Recruit is still working as its own company, right? So that they can keep focus on sales, marketing, all those things. They're not, iCIMS Text Recruit. They are just Text Recruit. Eric's still in place. And I think Colin and the team over there have really prioritized effectively and saying, look, we know that this is right. We know our clients need this and want this, but we also want to keep the team in place and have the priority on them focusing on this product and this platform instead of just ingesting the entire thing into the platform and then it just dying.
But if that worked really well for them, why are they building their own recruitment marketing platform or CRM? Why don't they just buy one? I don't get it. Because they're going to build a crappy one, I'm telling you.
They might. See, the thing is, when you're a company the size of ISIMS, who just got a very nice investment, you have the opportunity to start the building process and then also have the conversations and the courting to see if what's out there can actually match what you're starting to build. So, I mean, depending on some of those platforms, who knows?
So just before, we have 5 whole minutes to go.
Oh,
beautifully planned
already,
by the way. Next week we have Tracy Parsons talking about whether the application process actually matters, and that goes quite well with this, if I'm honest.
I love Tracy.
An extension. Well, yeah. Now she's gone out on her own. We can actually get an hour of her time. I have tried to get her on the show for 2 years. Yeah. So it's like, finally. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. She's very direct as well. So, and she's got some research to share, so it'll be quite cool.
Nice.
So what's the next event you're at? You told us, but which one's next? Chad.
What's next? I'm sorry.
What's the next event that you're going to be at with Joel?
We're going to Banff and Alberta, Canada for the Cult Gathering, huge brand conference, pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, I'm working on the site right now. You go to chadcheese.com. We're going to have the Meet Us link up so that you can actually see exactly where we're going. I mean, we've got like 20 different events that we already have scheduled for this year. So it's Chad Cheese global domination.
Right, you've got the podcast, you've got the events. Anything else planned or for next year? That's
this year, sweetie. We've just changed years.
Because I bet you're thinking far ahead.
Other than again launching new podcasts, so I'm actually producing the Crazy and the King podcast, and getting that pushed out there. So there are plenty of voices that are out there that are interesting voices, right? You've got a bunch of bold ones. There are some interesting voices that are out there that need to be heard,
including ours.
Well, you already have your own thing here.
I'm channeling my inner Chad.
Yeah. So I'm really looking at, just from my standpoint, helping those voices get off the ground, building podcasts behind them, being able to really help them kind of shortcut into getting into podcasting. We'll be doing just a ton of promotion this year. Last year we did some promotion. It was really fun. But this year it's not even going to compare. It is ridiculous.
And I'm expecting more free beer, right?
Oh yeah. There's always free beer, and anybody watching, if you need to send me free beer, just hit me up on LinkedIn and, Facebook, whatever. But yeah,
that goes.
Suddenly get a whole load of beer emojis sent to you. Thank you so much for being on our humble little show with our entire dedicated 32 people over there. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get to Chad and Cheese volume. We are. We're going to emulate everything you do. We're just going to copy behind you. We'll be there.
Just be authentic and cuss a lot. And I mean, and then
Audra never swears on this show. Ever.
We can probably switch. We can probably switch where we can pull Audra into Chad and Cheese for me, and then I can pop on the show here, Katrina. We can do that kind of thing.
Yeah, so you and I just swear the whole time. It'd be great. Exactly. Audra won't swear. It's fucking ridiculous. I've heard her off stage. Right. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chad, for joining us. Audra, thank you. We shall see you next week with Tracy Parsons at the same time. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.